I'm Idiotech, and today we're going to take a look at Trackmania Turbo for PC. Now, it's important to note that I've never played a Trackmania game before in my life. I've seen many GIFs and screenshots and videos of it over the years, but I thought it was about time I checked out the series, so let's jump in. Now, the initial problem right off the bat is that there are no settings or options menus whatsoever in this game. Now, thankfully, it does run quite well, and I've heard reports that it runs very well on low-end systems. However, if you want to access any kind of options menus, you have to hover up here with your mouse cursor, bring down this weird taskbar looking menu. Here you can change the sound options, as well as the graphics input and replay editor. Not the most intuitive system in the world, and in fact it's hidden, so yeah, unless you've seen this video or read a guide, you might not even know this is here. So we'll jump into the graphics options menu very quickly. This is incredibly bare bones. Now, I did actually purchase the previous game Trackmania 2 Stadium to see what the options menu and things were like in that game, and it's very similar, so it doesn't seem like they've updated things at all. Now, we have Anti-Aliasing, FXAA, or none. Not a great selection there. It would be nice to have better options. You can force better anti-aliasing in the NVIDIA control panel. We have anisotropic filtering, you can barely even read that, and water effects will crank that up to high. We have advanced down here, so we can set our maximum frames, frame synchronization, etc., etc., and then we can decide whether or not we want our screenshots to be taken in JPEGs. That's it. Okay, not a great options menu. Now, in terms of rebinds, this is an issue for me. Okay, so we have keyboard rebinds, which is nice. But the thing is, there's a lot more controls on the keyboard than there is on the Xbox controller, which is what I'm using to play this game, because honestly, playing a racing game on a keyboard is frustrating for me because of the digital inputs, so I'm playing with an Xbox controller. But as you can see here, it says 15 inputs versus 27. So you can do more on the keyboard than you can on the Xbox controller. However, those extra inputs don't seem to actually function. So maybe they're carryovers from a previous game. I really don't know. It's a bit strange. It's not a great options menu. And honestly, it's quite a bad port overall. Now, thankfully, as I said, it does perform quite well. So that's a blessing. However, they could have put some more effort in here. It's really quite poor in terms of its port. Okay, so we're going to jump in. I'm going to show you all the different things the game has to offer. First up, let's go to the garage. Okay, so I've turned music off for the purposes of this video because a lot of the music in here is actually licensed, and I don't want to get copyright flagged, but there's quite a good selection, and it changes randomly as you play the game. Let's go into the garage and talk about Paintwork and Customization. Now, as far as I can tell, all you can customize is the visual look of the car in terms of the paintwork. Now, from the previous games, what I can tell is that you can actually do physical customization to your cars. So that seems like a bit of a downgrade. And then we have 4 different cars to go with the 4 different environments in this game. This car is the bane of my existence. It's incredibly difficult to control. I'll show you each of the different stages once we actually get into the gameplay. However, we can customize the paintwork, so we can go in here, we can set like a different color scheme, we can set our own sort of custom flag things and the look of the car and things like that. Now, other than that, we can do legendary paintwork. So if I select this one, for example, that's what our car looks like. Now, you get these from the Uplay launcher by spending your achievement points. You can't get them any other way. So let's go with this one. That one looks fine. All right, cool. So that's the extent of the customization. It would really be nice to have a lot more on offer there. Something akin to Rocket League would be really sweet with different kinds of additions and flags and helmets and things like that. It would be nice. It's a quite wacky game, as you can see by the floating pig in the background. So some more customization options that set you apart from other players would be appreciated. Okay, next up we have the track builder. I'm going to get into that last because it's quite complicated. We have a campaign mode, so we have solo campaign, double driver, which means you can actually play one car with 2 people, which is a very unique concept. However, that's local only. We have worldwide challenges, so you can play solo campaign missions, but on a global leaderboard to compete against people online, and then buddy challenges, you can challenge your friends. We have multiplayer, so this is local multiplayer. So we have hot seat. If we jump into this, we can play randomly generated tracks, which is kind of nice, official campaign tracks, and our own tracks that we've built in the track builder. So that's kind of cool. Problem is, it's local co-op only, and I don't know about you, but as a PC gamer, this is not something I tend to engage in. You can do hot seat, which is kind of nice. You've got arcade, you've got split screen, and then secret, which I think just gives you a randomized track. Next up, we have online racing. And I will also jump into this a little bit later. So that's what we have. Now, a lot of these features, double driver campaign, all this hot seat multiplayer stuff, the split screen stuff, a lot of PC players aren't actually going to utilize those features, and it does feel very much like a console crossover. So those features, for me at least, are pretty pointless. So really all I can do is play the solo campaign and the online multiplayer, as well as race my own tracks that I build. So that does kind of limit the content I have available to me immediately. Now, I may have failed to mention this game retails for $45 US, which is something to keep in mind. And the previous game was split up into various sections. So it was like Trackmania Stadium, Trackmania Valley, Trackmania whatever, right? And they were, I think, around $20 each. So price-wise, it does seem reasonable. This time around, what they seem to have done is compact all of those different split-off versions of the game into one game. And that's one of the reasons it appealed to me. So at the top here, you can see we have Canyon Drift, we have Valley, we have Lagoon, and we have Stadium. Now, Drift, Valley, and Stadium were previously available. They've obviously changed the tracks and updated the graphics a little bit, but those were environments people had already experienced. Lagoon is the new one, so this time around we get an extra one. As far as I can tell, that's the difference between this and the previous title. Now, as you can see, we have White Series, Green Series, Blue Series, Red Series, and Black Series. These increased dramatically in difficulty as you progress. You have to beat the White Series to unlock the Green, etc., etc., and as you can see here, there are medal requirements. So I'm going to jump into this, and I'm going to show you one mission from each of these. They're very short. That's kind of the nature of Trackmania. There's a lot of very short trick-based, well, not trick-based, but just, you'll see when we get into it, tracks, and they can take up to, like, I don't know, a minute in some cases, and sometimes around 10 to 15 seconds. So, as you jump into a mission, you'll see here we have target times. You can go for gold, silver, or bronze, or try and beat your personal record. I'm going to try and go for gold, although I think I just fluked gold on this the first time around. Okay, so we drop out of the sky. Now, these are basic controls. I'm using a controller for this. Now, the reason I'm using a controller is because I personally prefer to drive in racing games with analog sticks. It gives me more control, and that's the case in Trackmania Turbo. Okay, so when we hit these little pads on the ground with arrows, it gives us turbo boosts. And as you can see, I'm currently flying through the air. So it's a very arcadey game. And it's actually very enjoyable. You can also drift. I'm not going to drift into the barrier there. You can drift just by letting go of the accelerator and tapping the brake very slightly and then back on the accelerator and you can drift. Very easy to do. Very arcadey, very fun. There's no simulation here. It is a pure arcade game. Okay, so I didn't quite hit the gold there. But you can see that's how it works and then you can improve or move on to the next track. So that's the drifting type tracks. And I found those really enjoyable, and I found them easy to control. The drifting mechanic was very simplistic, but it was very easy to control. No real complications there. Perfectly fine. Now, this section is not so fine for me. I find the car you're given in this very sensitive. It's not easy to control, and the dirt environments are particularly tricky. So I've seemed to have found the things I like. I tend to like the drifting stuff and the stadium stuff. That's the stuff that really gels with me. The problem is half the campaign is not that stuff. So for me, half the campaign is a little frustrating. Okay, let's jump into this one. I'll show you what I mean by twitch. It's as soon as you touch the analog stick, you pretty much just fly off the track, which is very difficult. You also can't really drift in this car. It's a sort of buggy-ish type car. So I'm having to come off the accelerator quite a lot in this car not to crash. Basically, I just come off the accelerator as I go into turns, sometimes apply a dab of brake, but it's much more like racing a real car, not a crazy arcadey drifty car. And as a result, it's a little bit more difficult. And some of these tracks can get quite complicated. Now, this track in particular doesn't seem to have a huge amount of dirt. No, that's it, that's all it was. But the dirt versions of that environment are quite tricky and very slippy, as well as the next section, which also has a lot of dirt. There's actually quite a lot of dirt in this game, full stop. Even in Stadium, there's quite a lot of dirt environments. And I find the dirt tracks to be a little bit tricky, to be honest. They're just a touch too sensitive. Now, I did try and lower the analog sensitivity of my controller, but that didn't seem to really help. We'll go to Roller Coaster Lagoon. So this has a lot of magnetic roller coaster type track additions, which is really cool. So we'll jump into that. Loading times are pretty good. We'll go for gold. We're not going to get it, but we'll go for it nonetheless. Okay, so you can see there's roller coaster things in the distance. That little panda with the magnet indicates to us that we're about to go into some magnetic track, and we can do loop-the-loops and crazy roller coaster-y type things. Now, this to me is fun. You know, I find the core gameplay loop of this game very enjoyable, and I can understand why so many people have played this game for so many years. because it's just, whoops, I fucked that up really badly, because it's a lot of fun, you know. It's not serious, but it's just a bit of arcadey fun, and it's good, and the tracks are short. There's lots of them. There's hundreds and hundreds of tracks in this game, which is great. Really cool selection of tracks to play. Now, finally, I want to show you Stadium. We'll just jump into the first track here. I don't know what it is. Now, these ones here at the ends, I should have pointed this out before, the multi-lap ones, these are like traditional races. So if you do like just doing laps, you can do that. In fact, let's jump into one now. Let's jump into the hardest one. I'll probably fail horribly, but I just want to show you something different. Okay, we'll go for gold. I'm not going to get it. Now, the visuals are also quite nice. As you can see, there's a lot of reflections and things like that. It would be nice if there was default good versions of anti-aliasing. However, you can turn that on in the NVIDIA control panel if you wish, but I'd prefer to have those options available in the game and officially supported. It's not particularly hard, by the way, to actually implement other versions of anti-aliasing. FXAA is just a really cheap method a lot of developers use, and it's kind of lazy, honestly. Okay, so I've lost a bit of speed around here. Now, this car in particular is not very good at drifting. It's more like a Formula 1 car. It sticks to the ground very, very heavily. Okay, let me just get around here. Oh, I missed the boost there. That's not fortunate. Okay, drift? Really? Those signs tell you stuff as well, which is very useful, actually, because the game's very fast-paced, as you can see. And that fast-paced nature and not knowing the tracks, it can sometimes be very helpful to be told where and what. Here, see, it said U-turn there, so I know there's a U-turn coming up. That's nice. We don't have any kind of mini-map telling us what's coming up, and honestly, the speed of this game, it wouldn't really work. So having those signs around everywhere is really good. I like that. And look, overall, you know, this is an arcadey game. And for me, it's fun. You know, it's not something I'm going to take seriously. It's not like Assetto Corsa. It's something I jump into for half an hour, do some races, maybe play online, and then call it a day. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And for the most part, I've had a good time here, aside from the dirt-based tracks, which I find very frustrating. Let me just do this third lap here. So these are the lap-based tracks. And when you play these online, it can be quite fun. Okay, so that's done. No, did it? Okay, that's fine. Good. I missed bloody turbo again. That's frustrating. Okay, I got a new record. That's nice. Bronze. Not good, though. So that's basically how the campaign works. And as you progress through each of these sections, and it gets harder and harder and harder, and you get access to newer and newer tracks. That's how the campaign works. The rest of these features, worldwide challenges, you can play that stuff on a leaderboard. Double driver campaign is useless to me, and buddy challenges. Great. So you can play against your friends and do time attack stuff. That's cool. You know, fine. Okay. So, track builder and online. I'm going to show you the online. I'm going to try and show you the online because I'm not a huge fan of the way this is laid out. So we have all favorites and rooms, as you can see up the top. Now, keyboard and mouse support does work in the menus, by the way. I can click on these things perfectly fine, but I'm just using the controller for demonstration purposes. Okay, so let's go back to all. So you can see up here, it tells you the environments that are on this server. This one's just Stadium. It's also telling you where it's hosted. So, for example, if I want to play in Australia, I can play in Australia. Now, it would be good to have pings, just to tell me, hey, this server's got a great ping. This server doesn't. That would be useful to me. Apparently not. So there are filters as well. We can go in here and edit the filters. We can choose what type of tracks we want, what type of environments, styles, and durations. So that's cool. It's nice to have filters. Also, the level requirement on the right-hand side tells you whether or not you're up to that type of challenge. So let's jump in to this one in Germany. Now, it doesn't really matter because most of the people are ghosted, so it's not a big deal. Here you can see the track selection for this server. Now, you can have hundreds and hundreds of players in the server, and the first time I played it, I was a bit shocked because there were 99 ghosts on the field, and they were not rendering particularly well. They were bouncing through the floor a lot, they were crashing everywhere, it was very visually noisy and distracting. That should be the case here as well, so you can see hundreds of cars falling out of the sky. Hopefully I don't screw this up. On dirt tracks especially, they don't render well. On stadium tracks and concrete, it's fine usually, as you can see, but oh, I screwed that up, so I'm going to restart. On dirt tracks, the rendering's not great, and they often clip through the floor, and you just see people, like hundreds of people bouncing through the floor over and over again. Okay, I'm restarting this entire level because I'm not paying attention, but as you can see, I'm playing, and it tells you up in the top of the screen, in the middle at the top, what my current ranking is for this level. When I go over those red sections, by the way, it turns my engines off, and I'm dead again. Some of these online tracks are actually quite challenging, and doing a video at the same time is not the easiest thing to do when you're playing a Twitch racing game. Alright, let's jump through here. Okay, so it's telling me where to go. Okay, I just suck at this. I'm going to give it one more try, and if I fuck it up again, I'll just back out. But you can see the online works perfectly fine. I'm not experiencing any hitching, any lag, any kind of negative thing. There's nothing wrong here. It's just perfectly fine. I'm having no issues. Okay, I scored terribly. So that's the end of the race. Apparently, I didn't do particularly well because I didn't even finish the track. So there you go. I suck at the online multiplayer of this game. But actually, yesterday, I played it for about an hour and a half, and I genuinely enjoyed it. It was quite fun. It took me a little while to get used to all the cars being there visually at once, and it would be great, honestly, if they would allow you to turn them off, just so you could focus on the race. And there's a lot of visual noise in this game to begin with, and so when you've got hundreds of cars bouncing everywhere, it can be very distracting. So it would be nice if they allowed you to turn that off. Sadly, they don't. So that's a criticism as well. Okay, let me just get into this and then I'll back out. So the online works fine. You pick a server, you jump in. Now, as for custom servers and dedicated servers hosted by players, I think the developers are going to allow players to host content on official servers. I think that's what's going on. The messaging from the development team hasn't been particularly good, but right now, all of these servers, from what I can tell, are hosted by the developers themselves. And the tracks are just randomized. So you can sort of search for things with filters, as I said, but it doesn't seem like people who've made their own custom tracks are going to be able to run servers full of those right now. Now, that may be a possibility in the future, and I could be mistaken on that, but the messaging from the developer themselves has not been great on this. And so right now, all I can discern really is that these are all official dedicated servers. But as you can see, the online works perfectly fine, and you can join a friend. So that stuff's great. Finally, I want to show you the track builder, because this is where the longevity in this title comes from. Okay, so we can pick an area, an environment. So let's pick stadium. Now, as you can see, we've got various options here. We can use the random generator, beginner mode, normal mode, and advanced mode. Advanced mode is very advanced, and I find it quite complicated. Normal mode I can handle. Beginner mode doesn't have anywhere near enough options to make an interesting track. And the random generator can actually be quite good. So I'm going to show you the random generator. So we can pick a mood. So let's pick daytime. Let's pick small, medium. Let's pick medium. And you'll see it generate a track on the fly for us, which is a really cool feature. And it adds huge amounts of replayability to the title. Okay, here you go. You can see it building right now, which is really cool. I love this. The fact that you can just generate a random track and play it is a really great feature for this type of game. So let's jump into this and drive around and see if we can do it. I probably won't be able to, but it's a cool feature. Now, it does have problems occasionally. It'll put boosts in front of corners and just fly you off the track. You know, the random nature of the generation is going to cause issues at times. But once we actually get into the track editing, which I'll show you in a moment, you'll see it does have some issues as well. Okay, so we're going up here. This stuff's just cool. This is just fun. For me, I find this fun. And when you go over huge jumps and you get massive air, and there's some levels that are really impressive where you'll jump across canyons and stuff. It's a lot of fun, you know? It's not serious, but it's a lot of fun. Apparently that's the end of the track and I don't know how to turn corners. So anyway, you know what that looks like. That's how the track generation works. So let's back out of this and build our own track very quickly so I can show you how it works. Okay, let's go to stadium. Let's go to normal mode. Okay, let's pick sunset. Now, the beginner mode is very, very easy to use. The normal mode is somewhat complex, and the tutorialization of this system is very poor, if I'm going to be honest with you. You are going to have to just work this out on your own or refer to guides or videos. So, we get to pick an area initially. So, we use the triggers to pick what kind of area we want to use. I'm going to use just the grassy area for the sake of simplicity. Okay, let's load this up. Okay, now, we can move various track pieces around with the D-pad. You can do this also with the arrow keys. You can rotate with A and place with, rotate with Y and place with A. So I'm going to rotate this thing to face this direction. I'm going to place it down. Now you can see down in the bottom of the screen, we have straight, turn, slope, obstacle, transition, all these different things, turbo, finish. So we're going to go, and if we press the right and left triggers, we can go between arena, dirt, tilt, and simple. So I'm going to go to simple. I'm going to go to straight. We're just going to stick a couple of straights down. Then I'm going to put in a turbo. So we'll go over to turbo, put a turbo down. Then I want to put in a slope. So I want to start going up. So there's a slope, build a straight, make that go higher and higher and higher. Now I want to do a jump. Now this is something you can't do in normal mode, which is kind of crappy because the normal mode's easy as hell to use. Actually, I don't think it's going to allow me to do it here either, which is somewhat unfortunate. See, and the other thing about this that's kind of annoying is that they're very contextual. So if I put a turbo down here, it might actually let me put in an obstacle, which is a jump. No, it won't. So I have to put a slope in there, which is very, very high slope. No, it still won't let me do that. That's kind of frustrating. Okay, so we'll back off. I'll make a straight, because I know this works. Let's do... Maybe if we go into tilt? No. See, you can build jumps. I know you can. I've done it before. Well, I don't know. I want to do a jump. Apparently, I can't do a jump. Now, this illustrates to you the complexity of this system. It's not easy to use. So, this should just be a simple case of go up a hill, turn a corner, and then do a jump, and then go to the finish line, which is perfectly reasonable for this demonstration. But you can see how long it actually took me to achieve that. It's not the most intuitive system in the world. Okay, and there's one more thing I do want to actually show you before I end the video. Okay, let's see if the jump works. The jump works, perfectly reasonable. Cool, jump's fine. So you can do jumps. And we go to the finish line. Awesome, done. Now, here's the thing. If I want to edit this track, okay, I want to go back in and edit the track. I can't, for example, go back to my jump. Now, this is a huge issue. Now, this may be possible in advanced. Advanced is way too complicated for me to understand it right now. So I want to move back from here over to my jump so I can edit my jump and make it longer. That doesn't seem possible. I can't just move back. I'm trying the arrow keys right now. Doesn't work. So what I have to do is delete all of the track up until that point and then change it. That's very frustrating, especially if you've made an incredibly complex track. If you want to go in and tune something because it's not working quite right, then that's a big issue and you're going to have to redo your entire track. So I think some work could be done there. So that's the track building system. Very complicated in some cases. It does offer a lot for advanced players. If you want to go into advanced mode, good luck. I can't help you with that. It's very complicated. So that's what the game has to offer. Do I think it's worth $45 US? If it was $60, I would say no. The fact that it's quite a poor port, that it doesn't have any real graphics options to speak of. By the way, it does have an external configurator for that, which doesn't offer you much more than it's offered in the current menu system. And the fact that, it doesn't have basic anti-aliasing features and that the keyboard and controller support isn't great. There's stuff like this up here, having to go in here and not being able to see the inputs for the controller. The complete lack of tutorialization for many of the game's mechanics. Overall, I don't think it's a particularly well made and put together game. However, it's very fun, it has a lot of content available, and the online system works flawlessly. So, if this looks appealing to you, I think I could recommend it at this price. However, for me personally, I would probably wait for a sale. If this was around $19, I would certainly pick this up for a bit of arcadey fun. As long as you can deal with those port issues, it's a solid recommendation from me. If you found this video helpful or useful in some way, please let me know in the comments below. If you disagree with something I said, feel free to let me know also. And if you want to support the channel, please like, favorite, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time.